Hey, and welcome to Board with Life News for May 10th. Today I'm going to talk about My Little Scythe, Cryptid, Batman the Animated Series Gotham Under Siege, Santa Maria, American Kingdoms, and the Kickstarter for Mr. Cabbagehead's Garden. Let's get to it. My Little Scythe is coming out from Stonemaier Games. This was designed by Hobie Chow and his 6-year-old daughter, Vienna. This was a kind of weird thing where Hobie Chow wanted to play Scythe with his daughter, who was too young to play Scythe. So he made a mashup game with her that was My Little Ponies mashed up with Scythe. It was a very simplified, streamlined version of Scythe, and they used My Little Ponies as the miniatures. This won the Board Game Geek Golden Geek for Best Print and Play last year, and people apparently really liked it. And since obviously it would be almost impossible to get the actual My Little Ponies license for this, apparently Jamie Stegmaier from Stonemaier Games played it and liked it and thought it was interesting, so he's actually for real making the game, and it's called My Little Scythe. It's slightly changed. You're no longer My Little Ponies, you're just cutesy little animal miniatures embarking on an adventure. So, pretty interesting thing there. Cryptid is a new game coming out from Osprey Games. I absolutely love what Osprey Games has been doing in the past couple of years. All of their releases have had really nice art direction, been good games. They're kind of one of those up-and-coming companies that I always keep an eye on now. Cryptid is a deduction game where you are a cryptozoologist trying to find this mysterious creature or discover what this creature is, and all of the different players have part of the mystery of it, and you need to figure out what all the other players have while keeping what you have secret so that you can figure out what the creature is. It's got awesome art by Kwanche Moria, so yeah, excited about this one. Batman the Animated Series Gotham Under Siege is coming out from IDW Games. This is going to be a game where you're Batman and his allies protecting Gotham City from villains. Pretty standard, straightforward stuff there. But it's co-designed by Richard Launius, who is one of the kind of most famed designers working in this sort of game. He did Arkham Horror as well as a whole slew of other stuff. So that's pretty promising and interesting. It's going to have character miniatures as well as 3D city things, so I hope there's going to be things where you're the Dark Knight jumping off of buildings and onto people, like Batman likes to do. He's a big fan of that. I love Batman the Animated Series. It's maybe, that might be pushing it, certainly one of my favorite representations of Batman. I thought it was really good, so hopefully they can bring a lot of that kind of film noir style and all that kind of stuff into this game. Santa Maria, American Kingdoms is the first expansion coming out for one of my favorite games of last year, Santa Maria. This is designed by the designers Elif Svensson, and I apologize in advance, Christian Amundsen Ostby, who are some of my favorite designers of the past couple years. Between Santa Maria and Avenue and Capital Lux, I've really liked everything they've been putting out, so I'm always excited when they're doing new stuff, especially expanding on one of my favorite games of the past couple years. This expansion is going to include new buildings, scholars, bishops, shipping tiles, as well as new modules. And it also said it's going to include something called the Governor that's an asymmetrical role for one player, which I take to mean there's going to be the option for one player to be playing kind of a different game going on than the other players, so I'm definitely interested to see what that is. This week's Kickstarter is for Mr. Cabbagehead's Garden. Mr. Cabbagehead's Gardens was a really popular solo print and play game from 2016. I know a lot of solo players really like this game. So it's got great art direction based off like Victorian seed catalogs, and it's just kind of a very unique look to it. This new version that they're kickstarting is going to have not only the solo version, but also a 2-player version, which is exciting, as well as 3 new expansions that have never before been released. It is $19 right now on Kickstarter. If that sounds interesting to you, go back that. Alright, that's the news for this week. Thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, as well as follow me on social media. I'm at Bryan Games for board game news every single week. Also, make sure you go check out my Patreon. I'll be releasing my What's on My Table video, where I talk about the games I played in the previous month and my thoughts on them tomorrow. So if you back at $1 or more, you have access to that. So check that out if that's interesting to you. This week's question comes from @CarlE.Robinson via Twitter, and he asks, do you have the equivalent of a comfort blanket or reset button as a game, which you come back to time and time again with ease? I thought about this, and I don't, like, there are games like No Thanks that I'm always happy to play and I always introduce people to, but I don't know if there's like a comfort blanket one. But then I was thinking about games that kind of have that emotional connection to me or something like that, and I kind of do. I have backgammon. As a lot of you know, my father passed away like 9 months ago, And I used to play games with him all the time, like specifically backgammon and gin rummy. We played a couple times a week for most of my kind of teenage years, young teenage years. So I have a strong connection to those games because my dad was really introverted, so it was easier for us to connect over games than otherwise. So actually, I asked my mom if I could have his backgammon set that we always played on, and I have it right here. And I had forgotten that it's actually engraved with his initials, WJB3, and a date, 1975, because I think his dad gave him this set when he was a kid. Or I guess he would have been, what, 24? Maybe for wedding or something. I don't know. And it used to have a leather handle, and that's since like gone away, so it has this metal handle that's very painful to hold. But yeah, this set I played thousands of games of backgammon on with my dad, and it has a very, very specific smell, and it's a very important like object to me. And the game of backgammon is very important to me because of that. So that, in terms of like comfort blanket or whatever, that's what I'm saying for that. But yeah, anyways, so it's just kind of cool how games can have that meaning and create that experience for people. And as a designer, it's a thing I think about a lot, is like how I want to create like families and people connecting, how I want that to kind of be a part of the game somehow, or the idea that a game that I designed could be meaningful to someone in that way is really cool. And it's a really cool thing about games. All right, great question. And I'll see you next week.